Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. If you're a focused learner looking to figure out how to scale your international operations without absolutely drowning in red tape, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're breaking down a massive hurdle for small to mid-sized businesses. How on earth do you hire a dedicated professional, like, say, a bookkeeper, in a foreign market like China, without having a registered legal entity there? We're going to explore exactly how our specialized employer of record and RPO services at www.out2china.com are entirely rewriting the rules of global expansion.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the offshore hiring dilemma. Second, the EOR legal solution. Third, RPO talent sourcing. And we'll wrap it all up with a real-world bookkeeper case study.
Section 1. The offshore hiring dilemma. So, let's tackle the giant elephant in the room right off the bat, the friction point that stops so many foreign businesses dead in their tracks. Can you actually hire in China without a local entity? For a lot of business owners, the gut instinct is to just assume that hiring anyone requires registering a company first. You constantly hear about setting up a WFW, a wholly foreign-owned enterprise, but waiting months and spending thousands of dollars just to bring on one or two key team members, that completely destroys the operational agility a growing business needs. So yes, you absolutely can hire without an entity, and we'll get into exactly how that works in just a moment. But first, why would you even want to?
And this brilliantly illustrates the why. It's not about Chinese regulatory requirements. It's about pure, hard economics. Offshore bookkeeping has gone to places like the Philippines and India for years for this exact reason, and now China is emerging as a massive hub for that very same logic. Just take a look at these figures. An in-house Australian bookkeeper is going to run you roughly 35 to 50 Aussie dollars an hour once you bake in all the on-costs, taxes, benefits, office space, the whole shebang. Contrast that with a managed offshore arrangement in China, clocking in at about $12 to $22 an hour. That massive cost gap is the real game changer that puts this role on the table for SMEs in the first place.
But when businesses start looking offshore, they often fall straight into a trap. They assume they either need a heavy corporate presence on the ground, or they need to hire some massive outsourced accounting firm to do the work. If you're a smaller operation, paying for a full-service accounting stack is just complete overkill. You don't need a heavy firm, you need a dedicated, embedded bookkeeper. You want that one specific person who truly understands your numbers, who has that day-to-day context, and who provides real continuity, all without the insane overhead of standing up an entire finance department.
All right, Section 2. EOR, the legal solution.
So, if you want this dedicated offshore rockstar, but you refuse to establish a corporate entity, how do you legally hire them? The answer is a brilliant framework provided by our team at www.out2china.com, known as an employer of record, or EOR. Let's define this clearly without all the jargon. An EOR is simply a licensed third-party entity that steps in to act as the legal employer on paper. That's it. We sign the labor contract with your new hire, we run the local payroll, we handle all the mandatory social insurance and housing fund contributions required by local law. Basically, we take the entire compliance burden completely off your shoulders.
Now, what's really interesting about this setup, and you might be thinking this yourself, is, wait, if a third party is the employer, do I lose control over my worker? Absolutely not. No way. There is a very strict separation of powers here. The EOR handles all the bureaucratic red tape, the contracts, the payroll, the social insurance, but you handle the actual business operations. The bookkeeper's day-to-day work, their reporting line, their access to your Xero or MYOB systems, that all sits directly with you. You retain total operational control, which is incredibly important when you're trusting someone with highly sensitive financial data.
And just to solidify how legitimate and standard this is, major authorities like the EU SME Center explicitly confirm this structure. For companies that don't have a legal presence in China, using an EOR is the fully compliant, totally legal route for ongoing roles. It's infinitely safer than trying to string together some ad hoc, informal contractor relationship, which can very quickly run afoul of local labor laws.
Moving on to Section 3, RPO, sourcing the talent. Having a rock-solid legal framework is fantastic, but honestly, it's pretty useless if you can't actually find the right person. This is where recruitment process outsourcing, or RPO, comes into play. RPO is essentially outsourcing the heavy lifting of the talent search itself.
At www.outtochina.com, we use our deep local headhunting expertise to screen and match niche candidates for your highly specific role. So you aren't just blindly throwing a job ad onto a foreign job board, you're leveraging real local HR experts to find talent that fits perfectly into your Western operational culture.
So what exactly are we looking for when we use this RPO service to find a bookkeeper? Well, here is a really fun narrative twist for you. Local Chinese corporate tax knowledge is actually not required. Why? Because this bookkeeper isn't handling China's tax filings. They are doing standard bookkeeping for your home business's own books. Therefore, the skills we're really hunting for are total fluency in the systems your business already runs on, like Xero, MYOB, or QuickBooks. They need reliable English language reporting skills and standard payroll processing capabilities. It's simply someone doing your home country's books, they just happen to be based in China for cost efficiency.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds. Case study, the bookkeeper.
All right, let's take all these abstract HR concepts and anchor them in a practical, real-world application. The client in this scenario is a Sydney-based manufacturer. Like a lot of companies, they've got production operations happening on the ground in China. However, crucially, they do not have a registered legal entity over there.
Now imagine their daily reality for a second. They were trying to manage payroll and bookkeeping for their China side operations entirely manually from their head office in Sydney. That meant they were constantly trying to reconcile records across different time zones, they were spending hours chasing down local payslip details, and the absolute worst part? Because of this lag, they were only catching financial errors at the end of the month rather than as they actually occurred. They desperately needed one dedicated person embedded right in the operation who understood both the numbers and the local context.
So here is the exact step-by-step execution we used to solve this without registering a company. Step 1. We defined the role super tightly. They didn't just ask for a generic bookkeeper. They specified payroll processing for the China-based staff, monthly reconciliation, and a standing reporting cadence back to Australia. Step 2. The legal foundation. They established the EOR legal relationship with us, meaning the compliance and liability were completely taken care of. Step 3. We launched the RPO talent search, hunting specifically for that unique mix of system fluency and the ability to comfortably report in English. Because the legal side and the hiring side moved in parallel, it drastically sped up the entire timeline.
This quote honestly just hits the nail on the head and perfectly summarizes the value proposition of this dual-engine approach. For foreign SMEs, combining an EOR and an RPO to hire a dedicated professional is simply a better starting point. It saves you from the total nightmare of manual head office administration, and it saves you from draining your budget on a massive outsourced accounting firm that provides services you don't even need yet. It is literally the Goldilocks solution for scaling intelligently.
And hey, while we've spent this explainer focused tightly on the role of a bookkeeper, it is vital to understand that this structure is completely adaptable. The underlying mechanics of using an EOR for compliance and an RPO for talent sourcing apply across a huge range of remote roles. Whether you need architecture drafting, e-commerce operations managers, or logistics coordinators right there on the ground in China, this exact same no-entity route works.
So, what does this all mean for you? I want to leave you with this final question. Are you ready to build your China team without the red tape? We've seen today that the old assumptions about absolutely needing a local entity are just that, myths and old assumptions. By leveraging modern employer of record and recruitment process outsourcing solutions, you can access incredible offshore talent, maintain total control over their daily work, slash your operational costs, and remain entirely legally compliant. The tools to scale globally are literally right here. To see how these solutions can work specifically for you, check out our services at www.outtochina.com. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.